So why is Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time a massive step and important for video games? Before we get into this, the timestamps are in the description down below, so if you're wanting to skip to like an interesting topic or cut straight to the chase, make sure you click one of them timestamps. Also, you'll find all my social medias, so make sure you follow us on at least one of them, whether that be Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on everything at Tenic284. Anyway, let's get straight into this. So Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time is due to release on the 2nd of October 2020 on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. If you didn't already know, it is a single player platform game. It's a direct follow-up to the Insane trilogy. It takes place after the events of Warped, which was Crash Bandicoot 3, originally released on the PlayStation 1. You switch between Crash and Coco. Dr. Neocortex and Dingle are also playable, and just been announced, Towner is also playable. So I'm just going to quickly talk about some remasters, and the reason being is because the likes of Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy was a remaster of the original 3 Crash Bandicoots, and of course Spyro, the Reignited Trilogy, same again from the first 3 games that came out on the PS1 originally. So over the past maybe even 15 years, there's been a lot of remastered games. Some of the more recent ones are Kingdoms of Amalur, Re-Reckoning, Shadow of the Colossus, Resident Evil. You've got Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, all been remastered. The Last of Us Part 1, that originally came out on the PlayStation 3, that was remastered for the PlayStation 4. Zelda Link's Awakening, Crash Team Racing, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2, and Prince of Persia The Sands of Time has just been announced for a remaster. And there's plenty more. There's hundreds and hundreds of games getting remastered, but some of them don't do as well as others. And you can see from the likes of Deadpool, that came out in 2013, tried to remaster it soon after and it didn't work. They tried to remaster it with the release of the movie, and basically people were saying it was just a quick money grab, and it was far too soon to remaster a game of that standard. Games like The Witcher 3, Skyrim, Grand Theft Autos, do we call them remasters, or are they just getting ported to the next console because there were such good games that anyone who didn't get it the first time round, or might have sold it and want to replay it, or for whatever reason get the chance to play it with slightly better graphics maybe, or whatever, but the sales speak for themselves. I'm pretty sure The Witcher 3 is going to sell very well when it comes out on the new PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. So what I'm getting at here is remasters can work and cannot work. And the pattern I'm seeing is, if it was a great selling game from 20 years, even 15 years or so ago, and it is done by maybe like, I don't know, Vicarious Visions or something like that, it'll probably do well, to be honest. But what's the sweet spot for remasters? Everyone loves Bully. That came out on PS3, Xbox 360, but it was first released as Canis Canem Edit on the PlayStation 2. And that was only one gen later, and everyone loved that remaster, the ability to get achievements and that, and just replay the game. So, is it nostalgia? Do we need to wait 15-20 years before we remaster things? Or what is it? There doesn't seem to be like a rule per se. And Crash Bandicoot 4 seems to be one of the only games, if not the only game, if you exclude games like Resident Evil, who are kind of doing the remasters, but they never really stopped making them types of games and that type of formula. So if you put it in that perspective, then Crash Bandicoot 4 is probably the only game to do this, because we haven't had a original Crash Bandicoot game for 12 years, and even then, the first 3 and the new one coming out play very similar, if not exactly the same, and should feel pretty much exactly the same feel as the Insane Trilogy does. Whereas the games in between, the likes of Mind Over Mutant and stuff like that, didn't really play like a typical Crash Bandicoot game. So if we're talking about that, it's probably been longer than 12 years. And while we're speaking on 12 years, let's go into the history. So like I said, Mind Over Mutant kind of skewed and warped Crash that it didn't really feel like the original 3, and a lot of fans of the series didn't really like the new style of games. And if we put Spyro Dawn of the Dragon in that same category, then it's kind of similar. The first 3 Crash Bandicoot games were kind of like, had an arcadey feeling. It was simplistic controls, basic formula and story, but people loved them. They had collectibles, time trials for replayability, easy to learn, pick up and play. You tell your nana how to like spin, how to jump, how to move, and you can play Crash Bandicoot. You can sit, order a pizza and have long gaming sessions with your friends, whether you be 9 years old or 50-year-old. Like, everyone loves them types of games. You don't have to be paying too much attention, but you kind of develop a relationship with the characters. Or if you haven't got time for a long gaming session, 5-6 hours with your mates on a weekend, then you can jump on, quickly try and get past that level that you've been trying for the past week before your mom tells you that, oh well, we're going to your auntie's. So a lot of developers are remastering games from 15, even 20 years ago, but not many of them are actually creating new games, follow-ons from them games. If you take the likes of God of War, that was a whole reboot, and that worked. It was epic. It sold amazingly. It got awards, and personally it was one of my favourite games of the PlayStation 4 generation. So it does work, but God of War IP, it's still there. They know they can make money off that. With Crash Bandicoot, I feel like a lot of developers are afraid. I've heard a lot of people saying like, it's outdated, nobody wants to play a platformer like that anymore, especially it's not open world, it's level based, it's arcadey, there's no customization, it's too simplistic, and it's just too easy for today's standards. Well, first of all, I don't think that's true, because from what I've heard of Crash 4, it can be very challenging, and also if you go on retro mode, you can get game overs if you run out of lives, so using the word easy probably isn't the correct term. And I honestly think developers are afraid to fail. I think developers want to follow the kind of industry norm at the moment, and they don't really want to like... Everyone wants to kind of make them like AAA games where people are spending like hours and hours and hours on the game, customizing characters which way and every way, and a lot of people don't want that. The success of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater remaster within the first 2 weeks has been amazing. People don't necessarily want realistic. I've had a few people say to us, it's not a real skateboarding game, you can't do 360 McTwists over a spine and then into a Casper slide over the... You know what I mean? Like, yeah, of course it's not realistic, but if I wanted realistic, I'd go and fail a fail a kickflip 100 times in real life. Like, I understand realism, yeah, it can be fun, and that was all the range around the 360 era, the PS3 and 360 era. That was all the range because of the new engines. What like developers were pushing these engines, but arcadey type games are quite fun, and that's what games are about, having fun really. Like, you know, if you want to do a double backflip over the spine, or you want to play as a Bandicoot and slapping people with your hands, then yeah. And if you want to play as a cute little dragon, like can't even fly but you can glide, like it's pretty cool. Like, of course it is. And remasters are good. I don't think they're bad. I just think developers need to try out the remasters, and if they like them, like they did with the Insane Trilogy, then make another game. Make fresh new games. I'd love to see another Tony Hawk's game, or a 4th Spyro. That would be so cool. And to be honest, it's heavily rumoured, so I'm really, really looking forward to what the next couple of years brings, because with the release of Crash 4, Spyro 4 may be on the horizon in the next year. Could we see another Tony Hawk's Pro Skater? So not all developers are afraid of trying new things. Look at the success of Cuphead. It's a simple game, old school, hard, very, very difficult, challenging. You can't say it's simplistic, but then again, you can, because the controls are quite simplistic. So games like that do work, and developers are now broadening the horizons. Bloodstained, it's compared to Symphony of the Night, an old school PlayStation 1 game. Ratchet and Clank, Hollow Knight, simple Metroidvania style with complex additions and difficult combat. And if you haven't heard of a little game called Octopath Traveler, that's like original RPG style. developers are trying these things and they're actually working with a bit of success as well. Well, quite a lot of success, really. So what does this actually mean? Well, if devs see Crash 4 have success, more old school games may be on the horizon for fresh sequels, such as the heavily rumoured Spyro 4, new Tony Hawk's games, a new Prince of Persia game instead of just remastering it. The list goes on. You can even get the likes of games that have been gone for years and years and years, such as Tomba or Tombi, depending on where you're from. Imagine a Tombi 3 just dropping and blowing the whole scene away. That would be unreal. And I really do feel like once developers see the success of Crash 4, then other studios, not just Vicarious Visions, could pick up old IPs and refresh with a new sequel, a new game, but with the same old formula people love. So I feel like Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time, is just the beginning. We can have Spyro on the horizon, and the success of Crash could give developers confidence. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you made it this far, you might as well hit the subscribe button. It's free. All my social medias are in the link. All my social medias are down in the descriptions below. And we'll see you for the next video. Bye.